Game 3 of Brooklyn versus Boston just finished up and definitely went differently than I expected it to, especially after the first, 3 minutes of the first quarter. It was looking like it was going to be a crazy blowout for the Nets, and honestly, I did expect this series to be a sweep. Out of every series, I thought that this series would be somewhat of a sweep. I did think that if Tatum had a crazy game, he did have a crazy game tonight, the Celtics would obviously have some sort of a chance if everybody else was hitting shots. That's exactly what happened. The Celtics beat the Nets in somewhat of an unexpected fashion. So, to start, the Celtics were down 19-4 after 3 minutes in the first quarter. Everybody was hitting shots. Joe Harris couldn't miss. Kyrie couldn't miss. Harden was drawing fouls like crazy. Even at the beginning of the game, he was drawing fouls like crazy. I think he had 40 to end the game. Nothing compared to Jason Tatum's 50, but we'll get into that after I talk about the Nets. So, Nets played pretty good. I mean, I don't really know what went wrong. The biggest problem for me, though, was down the stretch, Tatum was getting every switch possible. He was getting switched from KD to Kyrie or Bruce Brown. And although I thought that Bruce Brown did a pretty decent job of guarding Tatum, who is a 6'10", athletic, super young, crazy talented scorer, I thought he did an okay job, and he tried. He's not the best defender in the world, especially against somebody of Tatum's caliber. I don't know. I mean, I think Kevin Durant would have done a better job of guarding him, obviously, but I still think Tatum would have dropped pretty crazy numbers still. But Bruce Brown tried to contain him. As hard as he tried, I just don't think it worked. Tatum was getting everything. If it wasn't a bucket, it was a foul call. Everything was going Tatum's way, and that is where this game fell into the hands of the Boston Celtics. Tatum was playing great, and when Tatum plays great, they have a shot always. That is also where Kemba Walker and Marcus Smart was huge for the Celtics down the stretch, and he had two crazy good foul draws. He had one that was overturned, which was ridiculous. I still cannot believe they overturned it. Kevin Durant clearly fouled Marcus Smart on the inbound play, and then all of a sudden the Nets challenge it, and it's reviewed, and it looks like, oh no, the Nets, they get the ball back, they get a shot and the ball back. It's only a 6-point game. I still don't fully understand why that foul on Kevin Durant was revoked and that, the Nets were given a free throw. That changed the ending of this game, and it allowed the Nets a little bit of hope, and, the game still ended up in the Celtics' hands, and it was still just really frustrating to see that happen. I thought that the refs were a little soft. I thought that James Harden was getting every call he wanted. With that said, Tatum was also getting what he wanted, but that's for another day. And I thought a lot of what was happening to Tatum was deserved fouls. He was down there and he was drawing fouls from Bruce Brown and Kyrie Irving, who were fouling him. James Harden is just so good at drawing fouls that it's scary. Trae Young, we all hate what he does. James Harden is just as bad, if not worse. But what makes what he does almost an art form is that he is just so good at it. Trae just kind of runs into people, bumps into him, and flails his arm. James Harden flails his arms like crazy, and but he does it so precision-like, and it's so accurate based on what's happening in the play. If you touch James Harden, his arm is going to hook you, and he is going to go straight up, and it is going to be called a foul in the paint anytime he's driving. He takes a ridiculous amount of free throws. We all know this, and it's still working in Brooklyn just as well as it did in Houston. With that said, I do think that, Harden doing all he can to help this team win isn't necessary. When you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and Joe Harris and Blake Griffin and all these players. I know Blake Griffin isn't much of a scoring threat, but Joe Harris has been really good, actually. I've heard a lot of people say he might be the 4 to their big 3, but that's something else to talk about another day. Some people might not be ready for that discussion, but, if you hate me, you hate me. Talk about it in the comments. But the Celtics kind of they shot well. Tristan Thompson was a good scorer. He was scoring efficiently. Marcus Smart shot 70% from 3, and he had 23 or 24 points. Plus, Tatum had 50. All of that happened, and it was still a very close game towards the end. This is going to probably be 5 games. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Nets win the next 2. If Tatum can drop 50 again, as much as I'd love to see the Celtics pull this out, he's going to have to drop 50, and his teammates are going to have to play at a very high level too. And those two things can happen. Are they going to happen enough times for this team to win a series of 7 against one of the best teams ever assembled? Probably not. So, with that said, I did enjoy this game. I thought it was a good watch, but it left me a little like, if I'm a Celtics fan, I'm like, oh, awesome, we won. Now we lose. It's like it's a moral victory. They get to say they beat the Nets, who are probably going to go on and win the NBA Finals. So, with that said, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to try and get this up pretty soon. I'm going to go real fast and watch the Mavericks vs. Clippers game. That game might be out tomorrow. It could be out tonight. Who knows? Nobody watches these anyway. But if you are, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.